When we look at a finished, polished essay, like Ruben Ramos's Just Like My Papi Guero, we see vivid, specific details. He describes a machete with a blade covered in a matrix of lines. It reads beautifully, but that final product often hides the struggle it took to create it. The unpolished reality of writing is chaotic. Nobody sits down and writes a perfect final draft on the first try. Real progress usually looks like crossed-out words, fragmented thoughts, and scribbles. That is the process we are starting today. Your goal for the Prewriting 1 assignment is to generate a raw, high-density list of observations about your chosen object. For this specific step, ignore your spelling, grammar, and sentence structure. Do not worry about how the page looks. Just focus on getting words down. Many writers get stuck because they feel pressured to be perfect immediately. Bypassing that block requires you to abandon the myth of the good writer and start with a low-pressure, disorganized list. Your first task is selecting a topic. There is a foundational rule here. It must be a physical, tangible object that you can actually hold. This is where many students fail. Your topic cannot be a person. You might love your child or your grandfather, but for this essay, you must focus on an object that represents them, like a teddy bear. Look at this machete. Ruben wanted to write about his grandfather's protection, but he didn't write a biography. He anchored the story to this physical item, noting the specific wear on the blade and the way the handle was retaped. Once you have your object, physically interact with it. Pick it up, turn it over, and feel the weight of it in your hands to trigger your memory. If you don't have the object with you, close your eyes. Recreate it in your mind's eye until you can see the light hitting the edges and feel the texture of the surface. You must actively hunt for hidden physical details. On this copy of Elmer Gantry, you can see the fraying cloth edges, the cardboard peeking through the corners, and the coarse woven texture. Anchoring your work to a tangible object prevents you from drifting into a generic biography. It forces you to deal with specific evidence rather than broad generalizations. Start writing down those physical traits. As you build your list, I want you to immediately discard the obvious qualities. We call these assumed traits. If you are writing about a book, you don't need to tell me it's a rectangle with pages. Every reader already knows that, so listing it just wastes space on the page. Your goal is concrete description, the unique, highly specific sensory data that describes your specific object and no one else's. Here is the difference. A generic description says the object is old and orange. A concrete alternative notes that the binding is a bright orange with small wisps of thread coming off, and the paper smells of dust and mold. Move beyond just what you see. Document the secondary senses, the weight, the sound it makes when moved, or the way the surface feels. Even a stained paper coffee cup has unique data. It might have a slightly bumpy, leathery texture that you only notice when you really stop to feel the material. These concrete details are the mechanism that transports your reader. They move the audience out of their own assumptions and into your exact memory. Now, we layer on the dominant impression. This is the emotional vibe or the specific tonal context attached to the object. Think about the person or the era the object represents. List the personality traits or the feelings that come to mind when you look at it. Add these keywords directly to your list. For the Elmer Gantry book, the physical descriptions are joined by words like fun, permanent, travel, adventurous, and connection to Amy. Capturing this vibe only requires raw emotional associations. You don't need poetic phrasing or even complete sentences to make this work. While your physical details create the image in the reader's mind, this dominant impression is what establishes the emotional meaning of your essay. Check your work. You should have a densely packed, disorganized page that blends physical traits with emotional connections. If the page looks chaotic and fragmented, you have done the exercise correctly. You are looking for high-density information, not a clean presentation. This unpolished document is actually your structural blueprint. Having all these details down now will make the actual drafting process much faster later on. Submit your pre-writing list for an easy grade. Taking this messy, imperfect first step is how you move past the blank page and start building the raw material for a great essay.